International Airport. Please keep your seatbelt fastened, remain seated until the seatbelt sign is switched on.
More accurately than you realised.
I did?
I, of course, was privileged to accompany the gentleman to the smoking room. They are indeed proposing a new generation of ocean liners.
Big ships, Mr. Harrison.
Largest and most luxurious ever. Not so fast as Cunard's Lusitania, but half as big again, and more to the liking of the upper crust. 3, I think they said.
Beats me where they find this sort of money from.
That's the clever part, James. Mr. Ismay has the backing of the distinguished American financier John Pierpont Morgan through his shipping firm, the International Mercantile Marine Company.
But I thought he built...
Workshops everywhere. It took weeks to find your way around. There'd be workshops for every trade you ever heard of. Painters, sailmakers, coppersmiths, boiler makers, cabinet makers. I even learnt a bit about French polishing of them.
Harlowers was a fine place to work, but dangerous. Every ship cost a life, and there'd be lots of injuries besides.
I was in the engine works for a while. Very well equipped it was. That's where we built the triple expansion engines. 2 of them, each as high as a 3-story house.
I worked in the frame bending shop. You'd heat steel beams in the furnace, then hook them onto slabs of cast iron and hammer them curved. It was skilled work. You had to bend them more than you needed because the frame straightened out a little when it cooled.
The shell plates that made up the hull weighed up to 4.5 tons. They were taller than the da.
The plates were overlapped on the edges. Some were raised, one after another. We called it clincher. One of the foremen taught me years ago. That's how you built these ships.
I worked as a heater boy. You had to heat the rivets on a wee plate. You pumped the bellows till the rivet was white hot. Then you get a hold of it with your tongs and throw it up to the catcher. And he put it in the hole in the plate with the holder up. There were two of us on the other side of the plate with the holder up. We had to hammer the rivet so it filled the hole before it turned dull red. The double bottom. That's a wee space we called the tanks, made up of steel plates. The rest of the rivet squad all had to fit into that gap. One of the foremen would check each rivet with a special hammer. If it made a ringing sound, we'd have to go back and chase it out after work. I'd get scared working down in that double bottom. You only had candles for light. And the constant hammering against the shell plates. You could hear it all over Belfast. Some of those boys ended up stone deaf, so they did. We were paid 31 bob a week. The heater boy and catcher got 16 bob. But we all worked the same 54 hours.
The upper deck was steel too, and part of the strength of the ship. There's no straight lines in a ship, and when you look down the weather deck, you can see the shear of the hull, with stopped her reflection at sea.
The stern frame had to be strong enough to take the rudder turning in heavy seas. You'd have all these timbers and guy wires to steady the frame, and men scurrying around like ants underneath. When we came to launch day, I was torn between pride and fear. The standing ways were coated in tallow, train oil and soft soap, so the ship would slide when they shifted her weight off the blocks. That was the most dangerous part, when the shipwrights were knocking away the last props. They were under compression, you see, and the sliding ways would be released by the hydraulic trigger. 100,000 people watched the launch. Some paid a bob to sit in the reserved seating. There were extra trams laid on. Then we all went off to the pub to wish her well.
Ach, you were proud to be an island man that day. And Titanic was the pride of Belfast.
Thank you for joining us. The tour will end in a few seconds. Please exit the car carefully and make sure you don't leave any personal possessions behind. When the car has stopped, push the lap bar down and lift up to exit safely. And mind your step as you leave the car. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, hurry along, and when you do, make sure the ink is dry and there are no smudges.
Yes, Mr. Ryan.
The name has the makings of a fine student. You reminds me of myself. Very well mannered.
Smith's private bathtub, with plumbing for freshwater and seawater, believe it or not. What are those? Memorial plaques. There are several of those in the hull now, and that's a telemotor. What's the telemotor for? It's part of the hydraulic system that connected the ship's wheel to the steering gear and the rudder. It's still shiny. Bronze and brass. They don't rust. We're about a third of the way along the hull now. I'll turn and zoom in. Can you see that hole? What is that? That's where the forward funnel was. The one that collapsed. Maybe 3 minutes before the end.
Oh yeah.
Let's get up close and personal.
I might be mistaken, but it looks like a Lophelian or Carl.
I wouldn't know.
Is anyone here a marine biologist?
Suna.
Yeah.
She's sleeping.
Alright, I gotta take that mystery photos now.